Mr. Duncan has spent his career working to undermine the progress we've made toward building a more inclusive, more equal United States. Rather than working to include more people in our democracy, Mr. Duncan's law practice has seemingly been devoted to restricting people's rights and making life more challenging for some of the most marginalized among us. And this dangerous record raises serious doubts about his ability to act impartially on the bench with regard to a number of key issues. Mr. President, in recent years, our nation has made significant progress in advancing the rights of our LGBTQ family and friends, building on the principle that all people deserve the right to fully participate in the social, civic, and economic life of our communities. And at every turn, Mr. Duncan has been on the wrong side of history, working at the forefront of the fight against LGBTQ equality. He's been vehemently opposed to marriage equality, filing a legal brief to the Supreme Court arguing against the decision that was reached in the 2015 Obergefell versus Hodges case, and later claiming that that decision, and this is his quote, raises a question about the legitimacy of the court. He's even gone so far as to repeatedly claim that nationwide marriage equality, again, this is his quote, imperils civic peace, a statement that is both ridiculous and offensive. Mr. Duncan has fought against adoption rights for same-sex parents and has dismissed the real necessity for LGBTQ anti-discrimination laws. And he has been unyielding in his attempts to undermine the rights of transgender individuals. In two major cases involving transgender rights, including the now infamous so-called bathroom bill in North Carolina, Mr. Duncan has been the go-to attorney, demeaning transgender people and even describing them as delusional. Given his history, I am deeply concerned that Mr. Duncan would be unable to act impartially if a case involving LGBTQ Americans were to come before the Fifth Circuit. Mr. President, I also have real concerns with Mr. Duncan's record when it comes to women's health care and their constitutionally protected rights, because his record shows that he's been a consistent opponent of reproductive freedom. Mr. Duncan was the lead counsel in the backward Supreme Court Hobby Lobby decision, which allows employers to deny contraceptive coverage to women. He has long supported efforts to diminish women's access to their constitutionally protected right to an abortion, arguing in favor of a Texas law in Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstedt that shut down abortion providers and was eventually rejected by the court. And he's even contested the fact that contraceptives can be necessary to protect a woman's health, and has challenged the importance of contraception to a woman's capacity to compete economically. Mr. President, medical professionals prescribe contraceptives for women for a variety of health conditions, including conditions such as ovarian cysts, which can be debilitating and can threaten a woman's fertility. Moreover, women who use contraceptives to engage in family planning often have better health outcomes, as do their children. And Mr. President, to compete economically on a level playing field, women must be able to make their own decisions about if or when to start a family. Studies have shown that women who have greater access to contraceptive coverage are better able to financially support themselves and their families, and to be full participants, not just in our economy, but also in our democracy. Women must be recognized for their capacity to make their own health care decisions, just as men are. They must also have the full independence to do so. But it is clear that Mr. Duncan has a fundamental misunderstanding of the importance of reproductive freedom and ensuring that women are treated equally. Mr. President, on these key issues, Mr. Duncan lacks the impartiality and commitment to equal justice for every American that is needed to serve a lifetime judicial appointment. This is particularly critical on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers states that lack critical protections for LGBTQ Americans and have a history of passing dangerous laws that have blocked women's access to health care. Marginalized individuals in the states in the Fifth Circuit and all Americans deserve judges who will always use sound judgment and objectivity, not operate with extreme ideological agendas. I will oppose Mr. Duncan's nomination to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I urge my colleagues to do the same.